Welcome, everybody. The 2023 NFL Draft is over, which means it's time to look at some NFL draft grades. I'm Joe with Gamehouse, and today we're going to take a look at the NFC North draft grades. The NFC North is up in our NFL draft grade series here at the Gamehouse. Make sure to check out the other divisions as you go through. We'll be doing it for each division in the NFL. Let's get it started with the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears had the number 1 pick, traded down to the number 9 pick, and have made a habit of trading down in this draft, honestly. Good for them for the future to get these picks. I'm going to be grading the guys they got at the spots they got. It's good that they get the extra added value. And as I said there, they get credit for trading down, but we're talking about the players they actually got to help them win this year. So let's start it off with Darnell Wright, the offensive tackle out of Tennessee. Like the player, but I thought he was taken a little bit early for the Bears. They feel like they could have gone with a different offensive tackle maybe later, or maybe stayed at their earlier pick and gotten a different offensive tackle who's maybe a little bit better. Gervin Dexter, the defensive lineman out of Florida, I felt like it was a little bit early as well. So that's why they start off with the C. The other picks were, there were some good ones down the stretch here, and we're going to get to all of them. But just it's hard to make up for that when you have a couple questionable picks to start when it comes to value and placement in the draft. So Tyreek Stevenson, the corner out of Miami, a lot of people were higher on him than I was, but I like the pick for the Bears. I need corner help, and I do think he's very athletic. I think he can work out. Zach Pickens, the defensive lineman out of South Carolina, I think he'd also have a role pretty early on. It does kind of confuse me why they're going 2 defensive linemen this early in the draft when I guess maybe that was what was at the top of their board, but they have a lot of positions of need that could have helped right away, so it kind of does surprise me that they want 2 defensive linemen, but I do like the player in Zach Pickens. Roschon Johnson, the running back that everyone says would start for any team in the country besides Texas last year. Like him, don't love him as a running back. I don't know what he's going to provide to this team, and it looks like there's a crowded backfield now when you have Khalil Herbert, when you have David Montgomery, when you have even Travis Homer, and now you throw in Roschon Johnson. Like the player, but again, don't know what the fit is, don't know how much of an impact he's going to have. Hopefully you can get a chance here to grow with the Bears in the future. Tyler Scott, the speedster out of Cincinnati at wide receiver. Thought that was good value there. And then Noah Sewell, the linebacker out of Oregon, and Terrell Smith, the corner out of Minnesota. Liked both those picks as well. Noah Sewell, more of an old school linebacker, and Terrell Smith, a corner that I think is pretty athletic as well. So it kind of fits in with Tyreek Stevenson. And when they're that far apart on the draft range, it doesn't matter as much as when you're taking Gervin Dexter and Zach Pickens, pretty close together in the draft. So they get the credit for trading down. They improve the offensive line for Justin Fields. They get DJ Moore as a part of these trades. So I give them a C. If you want to count DJ Moore as a part of this, is which I was alluding to, I'm not doing with these grades. You could probably move it up to a B. They get a target for Justin Fields this year, who is proven, and they can put him with Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool, and maybe that's why they didn't go wide receiver until Tyler Scott. But I think a C draft grade for what they got with the players where they got them. The Detroit Lions, I have them at a C. There's a lot of mixed opinions here based on this draft. It's just kind of confusing the places they took the players and when they did, because as we're going to get into here in a second, the value was just off, but they got a lot of good players. Just they should have reversed the order of it almost. So they get Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back out of Alabama. They traded down to get him. Thought it was a good pick. Loved the player. I thought he was a first-round running back. No questions whatsoever. But just making it your first pick was a little bit odd when you gave David Montgomery that big contract this offseason. Yes, DeAndre Swift was traded after this as well. So just a little bit confusing there, but I do think he's a game changer at the next level. Jack Campbell's a very good linebacker. He's very big, and I think he can at least zone cover in the NFL. Man coverage might be an issue, but he can run after the ball carrier as well. Tight end Sam Laporta. Thought there was better tight ends available, but I'm not going to knock him for this pick either. I think he can fit in right away and get some playing time. And then Brian Branch, the safety out of Alabama, I would have had him taken as the first guy. So I would have gone Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, and then Sam Laporta, and these rookies rank up. He didn't test well at the NFL Combine, but I don't care. He's got great instincts. He can play multiple positions in the secondary. He's going to help them out right away, and I think he's going to be an impact player down the line. So I like, it's put it all together. If you flip it around, it probably gets like a B grade, but just it was so confusing where they took, where the guys that they, when they took them is kind of just confusing to me. Hendon Hooker, again, good value there. Don't know if he's ever going to play. He's only a couple years younger than Jared Goff, so if you're looking to develop him, that's fine, but you probably could have gotten a veteran quarterback to back up Jared Goff and give you more of something this year. And that's kind of the end of the players that I kind of like that they took for the Lions. give it a C because of that. I mean, they could have gotten some guys at different spots early in the draft. They could have gotten some guys later in the draft, maybe have more of an impact on special teams to start. I like the draft class. It's just very confusing how they got the guys and where they got them. So a lot to unpack there with them. Moving on to the Green Bay Packers. Another confusing draft class. Some people came around on this because of the value, but for me, there was a couple issues here. I think they are... I don't know. I think they're in this limbo state now. Jordan Love, they have a solid roster outside of him, but how good is it? How good is Jordan Love? A lot of things to be answered this year. Started off with Lucas Van Ness, edge rusher. I don't know how many snaps he's going to get with the edge rushers they currently have, Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. We'll see if he can play. I mean, he probably plays right away, and then someone else doesn't play right away, so it doesn't really help your team in the fullest extent. And would have liked them to see them use a first-round pick to help their Jordan Love at quarterback this year as he's going into his first year as a starter. They did help him out more in the next round, so let's get it started. Luke Musgrave here, tight end of Oregon State. There were better tight ends available, but he is very, very fast for a tight end, and he doesn't have the most tape. So if they're drafting off of athletic traits, I can see that. And they do need a tight end as well. Jaden Reed, the wide receiver out of Michigan State that played the slot. Again, makes sense. Helps their quarterback. I like the pick. Maybe a little bit too early, but I like the pick. And then Tucker Kraft, the tight end out of South Dakota State. I mean, I don't know if they're trying to do what the Ravens did a couple years ago, take two tight ends in one draft and hoping just one works out, whether it's the guy who was drafted lower, which ended up being Mark Andrews, or the guy drafted higher, which was Hayden Hurst, who worked out, just not for the Ravens. I don't know what they're trying to do here, but I feel like there's just a lot of more needs on this team. And, this is a defense that kind of struggled last year, especially with Joe Barry at defensive coordinator. So it kind of makes me wonder what's going on there. Colby Wooden, the defensive lineman out of Auburn, I thought was a solid pick. But then they go get Sean Clifford, and I don't think Sean Clifford was a guy that most people were thinking was going to be drafted. There was other guys on the board available if you wanted a backup quarterback. I don't really understand that one. They go back to get more wide receiver help, Dontavian Wicks, and now it doesn't really help the problem, right? I like Dontavian Wicks, but now you have a bunch of wide receivers, young wide receivers in this room, not many veterans. And you have a bunch of guys who are maybe unproven or inconsistent last year or hurt last year, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. And you add all these guys in, and there wasn't like there was a top receiver in this class you added to the fold. So it's just a bunch of young receivers. I would have liked to see them maybe trade some picks to get a veteran receiver, to pair with Jordan Love, to give him a better chance to be successful from day one. They did get him some help here. Do they have a number one receiver? No. Do they have a tight end who will produce from day one? Probably not. Rookie tight ends really struggle with that. So just kind of curious there. Carl Brooks, the defensive lineman out of Bowling Green, I do love that. They did take a kicker. We don't knock people for that here as long as it's a little bit later in the draft. But Carrington Valentine, the corner out of Kentucky, I thought was a solid pick as well. A good man corner, I think, can pan out for them and maybe be a back end of the roster player. So C- for them, and a lot of it is, like I said, the strategy that they had going in. Would have liked maybe to get a better target for Jordan Love earlier. I don't know how much Lucas Van Ness plays in the first year. Who if he does play, who doesn't play because of that. The defense did need help, but maybe at other positions would have been more helpful. Defensive line, maybe, or safety. So that's just a little bit confusing. And then two tight ends there too. Who plays? Who doesn't? Can the rookie tight ends actually produce? Because that's something that's been troublesome for NFL teams in the past. So C-, just a confusing draft for the Packers. The Vikings get a B-. So Adam Thielen was cut this offseason. What do they do? They go get Jordan Addison. I like the pick. Was a wide receiver who I thought would probably be a first-round pick. I didn't have a first-round grade on him, but he's a very good route runner, can play in the slot, which means I guess you keep KJ Osborne, push him out of the outside, or I guess you could flip and flop those guys. Mekhi Blackman, maybe a little bit early at corner for the Vikings, but they do need corner help. Don't get me wrong there. Jay Ward, the safety out of LSU. Jaquelin Roy, the defensive lineman out of LSU, and then Jaron Hall, the quarterback out of BYU, and Dwayne McBride, the running back out of UAB. I actually think the best value pick here was McBride. I had a pretty high grade on him. I think he's my third best running back in this draft class, but something that I didn't know, didn't get the intel on, and it seemed like not many others did too before the draft, was that he maybe he needs to be able to focus on football more, is kind of how it was phrased on ESPN during draft night, is he just needs to focus on football and he'll be fine. But they take him in the 7th round, and if you have to trade Dalvin Cook, I think that's a really good spot to be in. B- grade for them. Don't think it's the greatest one ever. They get Jordan Addison. We'll see if these other guys can pan out and be Even contributors, I would say there's a lot of these guys behind Jordan Addison have a lot to prove here. But I do like the Jordan Addison pick after they cut Adam Thielen. So B- for them. Those are the NFC North draft grades. Let me know what you think in the comments below. We're going to be back with more divisions here coming at the Game House. For now, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.